Hello, I'm Dr. Janice Tarugi Page, professor in the Strategic Public Relations Master's Program at George Washington University. Now, we'll be talking with Sara Gutterman. She's co-founder and CEO of Green Builder Media, the leading media company in the North American building industry focused exclusively on green building and responsible growth. Sara is an experienced entrepreneur, investor, and sustainability consultant. As a former venture capitalist, she helped to develop companies that are simultaneous, sustainable, and profitable. So today, she'll be sharing some insights on communicating sustainability, both internally and externally. So welcome, Sara, and please begin wherever you wish.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me talk with your class. It's really quite a treat and an honor. I always enjoy the opportunity to talk with people who are getting their arms around the concept of how to effectively message about sustainability in a corporate setting. I have been thinking about and focusing on corporate sustainability and sustainability messaging for nearly 2 decades now, and boy, have times changed. 20 years ago, I worked with a mid-sized venture fund, and we invested in organic foods and natural products deals. And way back then, there were some visionary companies in that sector with just some really smart and dynamic individuals who understood how to use sustainability as a factor of differentiation and as a way to transform markets. But back then, we were talking to a group that we called LOHAS, Lifestyles of Health and Sustainability. And effectively, those were the early adopters when it came to making choices about sustainability and purchasing products that were sustainable because that was aligned with those individuals' values. Fast forward to today, that's still an important part of why people buy green products and invest in things that will make their homes more efficient and their cars cleaner and things like that. But the market has evolved so much. Back then we had to take a lot of business executives kicking and screaming into boardrooms to get them to talk about what we were calling then the triple bottom line, to take them from looking at a single bottom line of profitability to something that had a different set of what I like to call blended values. Fortunately, today, sustainability has not only become a necessity because we're all so aware of our very real environmental truths and realities, whether you're on the East Coast and dealing with hurricanes and rising sea levels and superstorms, or in the western half of the country dealing with fires. These are all things that are happening because of our changing climate. It doesn't really even matter how we got here. What matters is that we are here and where we go from here. And I think that is a mindset that has really permeated the boardroom and corporations in general. And fortunately, today, we're not only seeing that corporations are taking sustainability, strong sustainability stances and using that for differentiation, but clearly we're also seeing that the private sector is using sustainability as a way to advance national policy and to have to really play a leadership role on a national scale, especially given the current climate of our administration in Washington. So fortunately, business executives have a very real reason to commit personally and commit their corporations to sustainability. But at the end of the day, let's be honest, sustainability has to make sense. And that means dollars and cents. It means that right now, we all have to make business cases for sustainability. There's really not a triple bottom line anymore. It really is about a single bottom line, but the only way to optimize that single bottom line now is to make choices that help save resources and that protect environments and that do drive sales because you have a strong story that resonates with your clients. So, I guess where I'd like to begin and end is at the end of the day, it all comes down to the fact that sustainability is now economically viable. And then the last thing I'll say before I let you ask another question, fortunately, the cost of whether it's green building products or effective green manufacturing practices, the cost of all of these things, and even green products and raw input materials are at price parity, or in some cases even more cost effective than what we call conventional or traditional materials. So that business case, again, whether you're talking about inputs, material inputs, or certainly renewable energy. We're at a place now where solar is the least expensive retail form of energy in many markets. Wind is the least expensive wholesale form of energy in many markets. So we're beyond the price parity conversation as well into having these green materials and products and energy sources actually be very cost effective. So that's a great thing for corporations.
Well, that is an incredibly important point that you just made. Now, I understand that sustainability is more top of mind with executives and businesses in general, but my students are wondering, particularly, drawing from your past experiences, how do you advise getting buy-in from leadership, say if they're working in PR or communications, to initiate and engage in sustainability initiatives, and also hopefully to build it into the business's mission and operations?
Sure. As I mentioned, really the very first thing that I would recommend that your students lead with is the cost value proposition of sustainability. And again, that business model is so easy, or the business thesis is so easy to make these days. And that could be, especially if people are working in PR. So those PR folks may not be able to make a business case about how to reduce energy costs in the manufacturing process, right? That might not be within their purview. But what they can very clearly do is outline how a strong sustainability policy, how certain sustainability initiatives can elevate brands, can serve as a factor of differentiation, and can create brand evangelists in certain customer segments, and how that sustainability initiative can then lead to increased sales. So at the end of the day, sustainability, frankly, and again, I've been doing this for 20 years, it shouldn't be about the feel-good factor anymore. It was a long time ago, but today it's a very real business consideration. And if I'm going into a boardroom to talk with senior executives or a board of a corporation, I'm going in with dollars and cents, and I'm showing how sustainability can drive sales, can save costs, and can really positively affect that bottom line.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I can tell that it would be good to have a horizontal networking within the corporate communications officers, finance, et cetera, marketing, to develop some proposals together. So now we're focused particularly on how to communicate an organization's sustainability profile to stakeholders. Would you share some examples of effective messaging that's authentic, that you feel is done well?
Sure. There have been a lot of wonderful examples over the years. Currently, one of my favorite examples is Toyota, actually. They've got something called Challenge 2050, and it focuses on how Toyota as a corporation is addressing certainly the electrification of vehicles and the reduction of carbon emissions from vehicles, but also how the company is addressing pollution, energy, water issues, also communication to the public. So I think Toyota has some really effective messaging. And actually, one of my favorite examples, if you watch the Olympics, you may have seen an ad that Toyota placed. It was called Winter, and it was just talking about preserving winter given our changing climate. And it was beautiful. And if you haven't seen it, go Google it and look it up on YouTube or Toyota's website. there are some other companies that are doing some great things. I always like in my sector to use Ingersoll Rand. And Ingersoll Rand is a company that has a variety of different brands, from Trane and American Standard, which are heating and cooling companies, to Club Car, et cetera. The reason why I like to use Ingersoll Rand is because they're really practicing what they're preaching. In fact, they're doing, I would say, less talking about what they do than actually doing what they do. They're doing more of the doing. And I think they're a great example of a corporation that has integrated sustainability into every level of their organization, from manufacturing and operations all the way down to really actively getting employee buy-in and talking with employees about their ideas for enhancing the sustainability of their company and of their brands. And so Ingersoll Rand has a group called the Center for Energy Efficiency and Sustainability. So that's certainly worth checking out. And then, of course, there's Tesla, just by its very existence, has been doing, and it's interesting because they actually don't do a lot of marketing. They have their stores, they have their brand, but, clearly their mission is to totally revolutionize the automotive, the energy, and the space travel industries, which they are indeed effectively doing. So I always like to look at that as a case study. Because their mission was not to be a sustainable company. It just so happened that their vision for changing the future and becoming one of the most relevant companies, frankly, in the world, to cause these market transformations, ended up being, one of the most sustainable examples of companies we could cite. And then finally, two more kind of general examples. I think we're seeing a greater adoption of renewable energy and the shift to renewable energy by a lot of different types of companies, from Amazon and Google, incorporating solar and renewable energy into their strategies, all the way through to, again, back in my sector, the building industry, companies like Whirlpool and Kohler and Owens Corning are sourcing a lot of their energy now from renewables. So that's kind of a big part of interesting sustainable messaging that I'm paying attention to. And then finally, we're seeing other companies like Coca-Cola and Nestle and even McDonald's making some pretty bold commitments to tackle water issues, kind of health and wellness and healthy food issues, and kind of the big ag issues as well, in terms of trying to source more from either small holders, they're called, or small landholders, or locally sourced foods.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, you have just given us a great list of ideas for projects moving forward for some of our students. Thank you so much for highlighting those businesses and those communication methods. Well, we want to thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today. And I can guarantee you we'll certainly apply it in our current work and in our future work. So thank you very much, Sara Gutterman.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was a treat.